There is a voice that speaks in silence within each of us. Have you heard it? Since ancient times, humanity has sought to understand the mystery of its own existence. Within us lies a subtle restlessness, an almost imperceptible calling that invites us to go beyond the surface of things. This internal voice, soft yet persistent, is the first spark of our spiritual awakening. But hearing it requires courage. Imagine yourself on a silent night, alone, surrounded by a vastness of stars. In that absolute quiet, it's easy to sense that something deeper exists, something that transcends our daily life and superficial concerns. This silent presence you feel is a portal, not a physical one, but a spiritual opening, an invitation to introspection, a suggestion that there is more to discover if we dare to listen. There are moments when this voice manifests as restlessness, a desire for change, or even an inexplicable melancholy. And this calling, though mysterious, is a reminder that our purpose is greater than we imagine. It is the compass that points inward, that drives us to question, to search, to want more. Carl Jung, in his quest to understand the human psyche, once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." This phrase reminds us that to fully awaken, we must connect with this inner calling. It doesn't seek external answers, but invites us to listen to our own truth. And you? Have you stopped to listen to what your heart truly desires? Have you noticed that perhaps there is something more, an inner strength waiting to be discovered? Take a moment to ask yourself, what am I truly seeking? Allow yourself to feel this restlessness. Let it guide you like a gentle breeze whispering promises of a new journey. For this journey has begun, and the next step is learning to trust this voice, to recognize the signs. Let's continue together, exploring this subtle path where reason meets mystery. There is an inner compass, a voice that silently guides, but can you trust it? When we start to hear the call from within, an inevitable challenge arises, trusting what we feel. Intuition is a subtle language made up of whispers and signs. It doesn't shout. Rather, it asks for our attention amidst the noise of the external world. To trust this voice, we must learn to listen with the heart, not with the mind. Imagine being lost in a vast desert. There are no maps, no signs, only the sound of the wind and the light of the stars to guide the way. The sense of vulnerability is immense, yet at the same time, something inside you awakens, a gentle confidence that arises without explanation, an inexplicable certainty that you know where to go. This is the essence of intuition. It doesn't have exact answers, but it reveals paths that are understood only when we follow them with faith. Intuition is like a bridge between what we know and what we don't yet fully understand. It's the wisdom of our inner being, which knows directions that the logical mind hasn't yet reached. But to hear it, we must quiet the mind, open up to the unknown, and be willing to be guided by a feeling that often defies logic. As the mystical poet Rumi said, "Silence is the language of God. All else is a poor translation." This quote reminds us that intuition is a direct dialogue with the divine within us, a wisdom not limited by words or logic, but that speaks directly to our deepest self. When was the last time you trusted a deep feeling, even without understanding why? How about allowing yourself to listen more to these instincts, these sensations that arise from silence? Try listening without judgment, and you might discover that your intuition knows more about your path than you realize. And so we learn to trust. To trust in what is unseen but felt. And with that, the next step is detachment. Letting go of what holds us back so that we can move forward with lightness. Let's continue this journey. To follow the path of the soul, we must learn to let go of what weighs us down. But how do we detach without losing what defines us? Detachment is one of the most challenging practices for the spirit. It invites us to let go not just of things or people, but of identities, stories, and attachments we build to feel secure. Detachment doesn't mean loss, but liberation. It's the act of untying ourselves from the bonds that keep us fixed in a limited view of ourselves so we can expand and explore the unknown. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack on a long journey. With every step, the weight seems greater and the walk becomes more arduous. Then you realize that what you're carrying might no longer be necessary. As you let go of the weight, you feel relief, a renewal of your energy and freedom. Detachment is like this, a release from expectations, control, and memories that, instead of nourishing us, trap us. To detach is to accept that life is movement and that everything that happens to us, people we meet, experiences we live, has a temporary role. When we hold too tightly to what has already served its purpose, we create suffering. But in letting go, we make room for new experiences, more aligned with our current essence, to bloom. Alan Watts expresses this with wisdom. The only way to make sense of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. He reminds us that detachment is a fluid dance with life, where we learn to accept constant movement without resistance, trusting that in letting go, we find new possibilities. What are you holding on to that may no longer be part of who you are today? What in your life needs to be left behind to open up a new space for growth? Consider if there is something you can release, trusting that in doing so, you create space for something more true and more aligned with your current purpose. And so, in the act of letting go, we become lighter. And with this lightness, we are ready for the next step, accepting change and learning to adapt to the constant flow of life. Let's move forward as the journey continues. The only constant in life is change, but can we truly accept this truth? We live in a world where everything is transitory. Nothing remains exactly as it is. People come and go, phases begin and end, and even our own bodies are in constant transformation. Accepting impermanence is not an act of resignation, but a deep understanding that all we truly have is the present moment. It is a release from the desire to control the uncontrollable. Imagine a leaf carried by the wind. It doesn't resist. It doesn't try to force a path. It simply surrenders to the flow, dancing in the air with no fixed destination, without fear of the unknown. Accepting impermanence is like this leaf. It is allowing the natural flow of life to carry us, trusting that each movement, each change, is part of a larger, wiser dance than our minds can understand. When we resist change, we become like rocks in a river, worn down by the force of passing water. But when we accept it, we flow like water, moving around obstacles, adapting and finding new directions. This is the true secret of peace. Not fighting against what is constantly in motion, but learning to dance with it. As the wise Buddha said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This quote reminds us that suffering often arises from our resistance to life's inevitable changes. Accepting impermanence is liberating because it allows us to live each moment fully, without fear of what comes next? Can you embrace the changes that occur in your life, even those that seem difficult? What would happen if you stopped resisting and instead embraced the natural flow of events? Take a moment to ask yourself, how can I accept the transformations that come my way with greater serenity? By accepting life's flow, we start to perceive the harmony that exists in everything. And with this understanding, we can connect with the essence of who we truly are, beyond changes and appearances. Let's keep moving forward. Who are we beyond the stories, the masks, and the words we use to describe ourselves? Behind all our identities, the definitions and roles we assume, lies something deeper, a timeless, silent essence that does not change with circumstances. This essence is our true self, a presence that observes everything but is rarely heard. To discover it, we must strip away the layers we've accumulated over time, one by one. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. With every experience, a new layer of dust forms, obscuring the true reflection. But as we clear these layers, bit by bit, we begin to see our true image, the one that's been there from the beginning. This essence is like the depth of an ocean. It's always there, regardless of the tides and storms on the surface. To recognize this essence, we need to distance ourselves from the labels that limit us. We are not just our name, our profession, or our achievements. We are something that cannot be described, only felt. It's a presence, a deep peace that exists beyond words. And this essence is what connects us to the whole, reminding us that we are, at once, individual and universal. Plato, in his search for truth, expressed this idea: know yourself, and you will know the universe and the gods. He reminds us that by connecting with our true essence, we discover the nature of the universe, for we are a reflection of it. Have you ever experienced a moment of deep silence where you felt a peace that didn't depend on anything external? Allow yourself to close your eyes and feel, for a moment, this presence within you that observes everything but never changes. Who would you be if you put aside all the stories you tell about yourself? Now that we've touched this essence, we're ready to open ourselves to the whole, to the interconnection that exists between every being, every life, every atom. Let's move forward, expanding this journey into something even greater. We are all connected by invisible threads, woven into a cosmic web that pulses within every living being. As we explore our essence, a broader understanding arises that we are part of something infinitely greater. Each thought, each action, each emotion creates ripples that spread, touching everything and everyone. Interconnection is this invisible web that unites us, a flow of energy that moves among us and reflects in every aspect of existence. We are not alone, for we are part of a vast, pulsing, universal organism. Imagine being in a forest, surrounded by trees that seem solitary, yet below the surface, they share nutrients, information, and life through their roots. In the same way, we connect with one another, often without realizing it. We feel others' emotions, influence, and are influenced by our surroundings. We are like drops in a vast ocean, different in form, but inseparable in essence. This interconnection reminds us that our actions resonate beyond ourselves. When we act with compassion, affection, or kindness, we nurture not only those around us, but also ourselves, as everything reflects everything else. Understanding this unity leads us to live with greater empathy, because every being, every life, is an extension of our own. Alan Watts once reflected, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." This phrase reminds us that while we may feel small and insignificant, we carry within us the entirety of the universe. This interconnection is what makes us whole, even in our individuality. And if each of your interactions were an opportunity to nurture this unity, how would you relate to others if you saw that we are all different manifestations of the same vital energy? Consider how your life can be more harmonious by seeing others as part of yourself. In recognizing our unity, we understand the importance of nurturing this connection. And the next step is learning to cultivate peace within and without, so that the harmony we seek reflects throughout the universe. Let's continue forward.